Now, many of the health problems we see today start on our plates. Poor nutrition makes us tired, sick, and more likely to develop chronic diseases. Now, healthy eating is one of the most powerful tools we have to change that. To talk to us more on good nutrition and maintaining healthy eating, we spoke to Simaneka Mbeeli, a food scientist and lecturer for food and nutrition at Welwitchia University.
I'm a food science graduate who happens to be a lecturer of nutrition. And I have a social media page called Namibian Food Bible. That's where I educate the nation on healthy eating, as well as a lot of other topics that impact whether it's our food or everyday health living, and how we just can optimize nutrition to be a best tool we have for our health.
Now, for someone who may not fully understand nutrition, how would you explain its importance in everyday life?
Very well. To explain the importance of nutrition, we have to first define what it is. And nutrition is the understanding of the relationship between people and their food. You see, this is something we can discuss at two levels, or three rather. We have micro, where we are trying to understand the nutrients, the chemicals that we find in food, the vitamins, the carbohydrates and fats and proteins. We also now have the personal level or individual, where practitioners, doctors, nurses, dietitians and nutritionists can look at a person and say, I look at your profile or signs and symptoms, I believe you better eat this and reduce much of that. And we also now have nutrition at a level we call macro, where government institution, Ministry of Agriculture, for example, can look at what is it that we can do for people to produce enough food to feed the nation, or for a whole household to have somebody who has a job such that they could earn and afford food. So when you look at it at those levels, you would understand that this is something we have that is important for us to optimize our energy level, for performance at work and so forth, for making sure that the health is also on point in terms of prevention of chronic diseases and things in this line.
Why is it that many people struggle to maintain a healthy eating lifestyle, even when they know what's good for them?
You see, when you are trying to eat healthy, you are not the only decision maker in what you eat. There is yourself, and there are genius people employed by the food manufacturers who are using behavior economics and nudges, heuristics, putting food at the eye level such that it's easier to pick for you, making food branded so well that it's pulling you to pick their choice of food instead of yours. So it's really a fight that people are in because of the environment they are in. It's not only the decision making of what they think before going to the shop that is at play when we are choosing food. That is what makes it difficult.
What does a balanced diet actually look like in a simple, practical way for an average person?
A balanced diet is a meal that has all the macro and micronutrients. We are speaking of having carbohydrate, now not refined, but real food, like you're talking of potatoes, you're talking of grains that are whole grains, not refined. You're talking of meat, fruits, vegetable. And if I'm to now make it practical, I could mention a meal where you have, let me say, pieces of chicken, beans or lentils on there, and then 5 years in the case of what we are used to here in Zambezi, for example.
What are some of those common nutritional mistakes people make daily without realizing it?
If we had to talk of mistakes people make in nutrition, in most cases we have to speak of mistakes done at the point of purchasing food. Going to shop for food while you're hungry is one of the biggest mistakes you can do, because that influences you to pick a lot of convenience food because of the hunger you are feeling at the time. As well as when we are looking at things like people not wanting to cook at home. Those are nutritional mistakes. You get to go eat out, and in most cases you get to pick the food that is more attractive instead of what is nutritionally sound. Those are some of the mistakes.
Now, how does food affect not just our physical health, but also our mood and mental well-being?
Well, when it comes to food and our health, more especially in our mental health, we have to understand it from the perspective of the connection between the gut and the brain. We have a connection between those two organs via what we call the vagus nerve. And in most cases, somebody who doesn't eat the food that is good for their gut, you get to miss out on some of the neurotransmitters and hormones that also affect the brain. And in most cases, when you look at the history of some of the people diagnosed with, let me say, mental health diseases, bipolar, depression, you would also find somebody who has a very bad diet.
Now, also going back to speaking to about the average person, are there affordable and healthy food choices you would recommend for people on a tight budget?
Very well, when we look at food like fish, beans, lentils, those are good sources of not only protein, but things like omega-3, phytonutrients, and good fiber, as well as just rice. And we can also look at traditional food that people are used to in their communities. 5 years, if you are from Zambezi, or if you are from a region that is rich in fruits, like seasonal fruits, those are some of the easy choices people can make that don't cost an arm and a leg.
And as we close, what are the small but powerful changes that someone can start today to improve their nutrition?
Some of these changes would include cooking at home. A home prepared meal, in most cases, wouldn't contain so many of the processed ingredients, and that would make it easier, because the goal is not to have a perfect diet, but rather to have a diet with as many as possible whole food that we get the way they came from nature. Those are some of the best choices you can make.
Any parting words to our viewers, Mr. Simaneka?
Very well, it's easy to understand nutrition. When you understand nutrition, you get to optimize your health, not only now physical health, as we mentioned, your mental health, as well as you get to prevent the spread of non-communicable diseases, or what we call lifestyle diseases, that often come when we have nutrition that is having a lot of processed food, as well as not knowing just what to pick. And for those that want to learn more about nutrition, they have to keep watching programs like this, as well as what I share on our platform, Namibian Food Bible.